I still remember the feeling. I was sitting in my room, and I was being crushed by a sense of shame so intense it was insane. I had a job, I had friends, but I felt completely alone, trapped in a compulsive cycle I just couldn't break. It was a secret life I was living after everyone went to sleep. On the outside, everything looked fine. But on the inside, my life was falling apart. I had non-stop, crippling anxiety. My focus was completely gone, and I had zero motivation. I'd hit my breaking point, and I knew if I didn't do something, this habit was going to completely ruin my life. This isn't just some story about quitting a bad habit. This is the insane story of how I hit rock bottom and the exact steps I took to get my mind, my energy, and my entire life back. And if you're watching this, and any of that sounds familiar, listen to me. You are not alone, and there is a way out.
Section 1. The Spiral. How it began.
It all started so innocently. I thought it was private, harmless, and something I had 100% control over. For a lot of people, it just seems like a normal part of life. In the beginning, that's all it was. But then, things got insane. Life got more stressful. My job got harder. Social pressures were insane, and I just started to feel overwhelmed. And in those moments of stress, loneliness, or even just boredom, it became the only way I knew how to cope. Tough day at work? It took the edge off. Feeling lonely on a Friday night. It was a super easy source of comfort. It was my secret release valve for every bad feeling I didn't know how to handle. This is where the real spiral began. The introduction of internet pornography. All of a sudden, it wasn't just a physical act. It was a deeply psychological game. What started as simple curiosity quickly turned into a need for more. More novelty, more intensity, more extreme content. I didn't get what was happening in my brain, but I was hijacking my own reward system. Think of it like this. Your brain has a motivation button. When you do something good, like finish a goal or eat a great meal, you get a little hit of dopamine. It feels good and tells you to do more healthy stuff. Pornography is like a super stimulus that just spams that button with an unnatural flood of dopamine. Over time, your brain gets used to this insane overstimulation. The dopamine receptors get less sensitive. It's like building a tolerance. This means the normal, fun parts of life, talking to a friend, finishing a project, start to feel boring. They can't compete with the crazy high your brain is used to. So what happens? You need more and more extreme content just to feel anything at all. You're chasing a high that keeps getting further and further away. I was caught in that exact trap. The time I spent online just kept getting longer and longer. The secrecy got more intense. I'd stay up later and later, getting no sleep, even though I knew I had to be at work in a few hours. This created a vicious cycle. The lack of sleep made me more stressed and less able to handle anything, which made me want to escape even more. Then came the first failed attempts to stop. I'd have a moment of clarity, feel completely disgusted with myself, and I'd swear, "This is it, I'm done." I'd delete everything, maybe install a blocker, and I'd feel amazing. I'd last a few days, maybe a week. But then, a stressful day would hit, or I'd feel that loneliness, and the excuses would start. Just one last time. It helps me relax. I've been good. I deserve a break. And every single time I gave in, the shame that came after was 10 times worse. It wasn't just the act. It was breaking a promise to myself. It was the feeling of having zero power over my own brain. Every failure just proved that I was weak, broken, and hopelessly stuck in an addiction. I was living 2 different lives, and the wall between them was about to explode. Section 2. The Consequences. Hitting rock bottom. The consequences of this cycle didn't show up overnight. They crept in slowly, poisoning every single part of my life until I felt like I was drowning. It wasn't just about the time I was losing, it was about the person I was becoming. Mentally, I was a wreck. The first thing that happened was this thick, constant brain fog. At work, it was impossible to concentrate. My mind, which was normally pretty sharp, felt slow and scattered. I'd sit in meetings pretending to listen, but my brain was a million miles away. Tasks that should have taken an hour took all day. My productivity went to zero, and my career started to stall. I was there physically, but mentally, I had checked out. This came with insane, constant anxiety. I was always on edge, terrified of being caught. Every knock on my door, every time someone glanced at my screen, I would panic. This high-alert state was exhausting. The guilt and shame were like a heavy cloak I wore 24/7. I felt like a complete fraud. This secret created a massive canyon between the person I showed the world and the person I was in private. That guilt destroyed my self-esteem. I started to believe I was disgusting, broken, and didn't deserve a real connection. That feeling led to extreme isolation. Even when I was with friends or family, I felt totally alone. I started pulling away, making excuses to get out of everything. Parties were overwhelming. Deep conversations felt like a threat because I was scared someone might see the real me. So I pushed everyone away, partly to protect my secret, and partly to make more time for the habit. The very thing I was using to cope with loneliness was actually making me more isolated. My relationships got destroyed. How could I build real intimacy with someone when I was hiding this huge secret? The compulsive habit created completely unrealistic expectations about sex and intimacy. Real human connection is messy and takes effort. My brain was used to instant, fake gratification online. It made me emotionally numb and disconnected. I was losing the ability to connect with people because my main connection was with a screen. Physically, I had zero energy. The late nights led to chronic sleep deprivation. I was tired all the time, irritable, and had no energy for things I used to love, like going to the gym. My whole world was shrinking until it was just me, my room, and a screen. The turning point, my rock bottom, wasn't some huge dramatic event. It was a slow, soul-crushing realization. I was at a friend's birthday party. Everyone was laughing and connecting. I was just standing in the corner, pretending to smile, but I felt like I was watching it all from behind a thick pane of glass. I felt nothing. No joy, no connection, just a hollow emptiness and a desperate urge to go home. Later that night, I looked at myself in the mirror. I didn't even recognize the person staring back. The eyes were tired and hollow. My face was pale. In that moment, the full weight of what I had lost crashed down on me. I had traded my energy, my focus, my confidence, my relationships, and my joy for a bunch of pixels. I had become a ghost in my own life, and I realized if I kept going, there would be literally nothing left of me. Section 3. The decision to change. That was it. That was the moment. Staring at that stranger in the mirror, hollowed out by a habit that promised everything but delivered nothing. A wave of despair washed over me, but underneath it, something else sparked. Pure anger. Anger at what I let myself become. In that instant, a switch flipped in my brain. I made a silent declaration to myself. I am done. I am not living like this for one more day. It wasn't a hopeful wish like before. It was a non-negotiable decision. The pain of staying the same had become 100 times greater than the fear of changing. The tone in my head shifted. I was no longer a victim. I was grabbing the wheel. It was terrifying, because honestly, I had no idea how I was going to do it. All I knew was that I had to. And I want to ask you right now, have you ever hit that point? That point of desperation where you know something has to change? Where you're just exhausted from living a double life? If you have, or if you're there right now, then you already have the most powerful tool you will ever need. A reason. A deep, burning reason to fight to get your life back. That reason is the foundation for everything. If this story is hitting home for you, if you felt any of this, smash that like button. It tells me that these stories need to be told. And if you want to follow this journey of reclaiming your life, subscribe right now, because we're in this together. This isn't about being perfect. It's about making progress, one day at a time. Section 4. The Path to Recovery. Practical Steps. Making the decision was step 1, but winning this challenge requires a battle plan. The road back wasn't easy, and there were a ton of failures. But through trial and error, I developed a system of practical steps that let me break the cycle and rebuild my life from zero. This is the how. Step 1. Radical honesty and acceptance. The first, and maybe the hardest, step was to be 100% honest with myself. But this time, it wasn't about beating myself up. It was about radical acceptance. I had to say it out loud. I have a problem, and I have lost control. There's insane power in just saying those words. For years, I was hiding and making excuses. Admitting the truth took all the power away from the secret. Crucially, this meant letting go of shame. Shame keeps you trapped in the dark. It tells you that you are the problem. I had to learn to separate who I was from what I did. I was not a bad person. I was a person with a compulsive habit. That difference is everything. You cannot hate yourself into a better life. You have to go into this with compassion. Step 2. Understanding the why. Identify your triggers. You can't win a game you don't understand. For a long time, I thought my problem was just a lack of willpower. But the real issue was, I was using this habit as a quick fix for deeper problems. I had to become a detective in my own life and find my triggers. A trigger is any situation or feeling that makes you want to go back to the habit. I started a simple journal. Every time I felt the urge, I'd write down the answers to 3 questions. 1. What time is it? 2. Where am I? 3. What am I feeling right now? The patterns became super obvious, super fast. My main triggers were stress, after a hard day at work; boredom, late at night with nothing to do; loneliness, on weekends when I was alone; anxiety, when facing a big project. This habit wasn't random. It was my default response to these specific feelings. Understanding this was a game changer because my focus shifted from fighting some giant, mysterious urge to solving specific, real problems. Step 3. Starving the compulsion. Create a new environment. Once I knew my triggers, the next step was to change my environment to make it as hard as possible to fail. You have to create friction between you and the habit. Technology boundaries. This was huge. I installed blockers on all my devices, but more importantly, I created a crazy rule. No phone or laptop in the bedroom. Ever. The bedroom was for sleep and reading only. This one change eliminated my biggest trigger, being alone in my room late at night. Break up your routines. I figured out the routines that led to failure. For me, it was coming home from work, exhausted, and immediately crashing on the couch with my laptop. I had to break this routine. I started going to the gym straight from work, or I'd call a friend on the drive home. The goal is to break the autopilot mode that leads you down the same path. Eliminate alone time, at first. In the early days, being alone was the danger zone. So I made a massive effort to be around people. I'd work from a coffee shop, I'd make plans with friends even when I didn't feel like it. It was uncomfortable, but it was a necessary crutch to get through the hardest part. Step 4. Rewiring your brain. Building new habits. You can't just remove a bad habit. That creates a void, and your brain will rush to fill it. You have to deliberately replace the old destructive habit with new, good ones. This is how you beat the triggers you found in Step 2. For stress, instead of escaping, I started exercising. A hard workout burns off stress and releases endorphins. I also learned a simple 10-minute meditation. For boredom, I made a list of things I'd always wanted to do but never had time for. Learn guitar, read a classic book, start a side project. When boredom hit, I saw it as a chance to pick something from my list. For loneliness, this was the hardest one. It required being vulnerable. Instead of isolating, I forced myself to reach out. I'd call my family. I'd text a friend. I joined a local hiking club. It was incredibly hard at first, but every small act of connection made the loneliness weaker. This is about building a toolbox of healthy coping mechanisms. So when life throws a trigger at you, you don't have one destructive tool. You have a whole set of positive ones. Step 5. The power of accountability. For years, my secret was my prison. The single most powerful thing I did to break free was to destroy the secrecy. I told someone. I chose a close friend who I knew would be supportive. My hands were shaking when I made the call. It was one of the most terrifying and liberating moments of my entire life. To speak the truth out loud and be met with compassion and a simple, "I'm here for you, man," was transformative. Accountability does two things. First, it kills the shame. The secret has zero power over you when it's not a secret. Second, it creates a support system. Knowing someone else was checking in gave me an extra layer of motivation. For some, this is a friend. For others, it's a support group. For many, the best option is a professional therapist who specializes in this. The key is this: you cannot do this alone. Isolation is where this problem grows. Connection is the sunlight that kills it. Step 6. Managing setbacks. It's part of the process. I wish I could say that after I started these steps, I never failed again. But that's not the truth. There were setbacks. There were days I slipped up. In the beginning, I saw a relapse as a total failure. I thought all my progress was gone. Over time, I learned to reframe it. A setback is not a failure. It is a data point. It's a chance to learn. If you slip up, don't spiral into shame. Get curious. Ask yourself, what was the trigger? What choices led me here? What part of my new system broke down? A setback shows you the weak points in your plan. It shows you which triggers you still need a better strategy for. It is not a sign to give up. It is a sign to learn, adjust, and get back on the path, stronger and smarter than before. This approach to failure is absolutely essential to win in the long run. Section 5. Life After. The rewards of reclaiming your mind. Talking about the struggle is important, but I want to show you the prize on the other side. Because the goal isn't just to stop doing something, it's to start living. The rewards have been bigger than I could have ever imagined. The first thing I noticed was my brain came back online, in HD. The brain fog lifted. I could think clearly again. My focus at work returned, sharper than ever. My creativity, which had been gone for years, came rushing back. I felt present in my own life, able to have conversations, solve problems, and just enjoy the moment without a war in my head. My confidence and self-respect grew back. When you keep the promises you make to yourself, you rebuild self-trust. I started to like the person I saw in the mirror again. I could look people in the eye. This new confidence radiated out, improving my social life and my career. My energy levels went to the moon. Without the late nights and the constant drain, I had more energy than I'd had in a decade. I was sleeping better, eating better, and had the motivation to exercise. I felt alive. Most importantly, my capacity for real connection returned. I was no longer emotionally numb. I could feel joy more deeply. My relationships deepened because I was able to be fully present and authentic with people. The wall of glass was gone. I was in the room again, laughing, connecting, and feeling like a part of the world. This journey from a place of suffocating shame to a life of freedom has been the hardest and most rewarding challenge I have ever completed. If you are where I was, sitting alone, feeling hopeless and trapped, I want you to hear this. You are not broken, and you are not alone. What you're feeling is not a moral failing. It's a human response to pain that can get wired into a compulsive loop with modern tech. But you do not have to be a slave to that loop. The World Health Organization now recognizes compulsive sexual behavior disorder as a real, treatable condition. The path out isn't easy, but it is there. It starts with a decision. It's built on honesty, understanding your triggers, changing your environment, building new habits, and finding support. This isn't about becoming perfect. It's about reclaiming your mind. It's about getting your energy back. It's about building a life that is so amazing you no longer need to escape from it. It's about taking back control one day at a time. You have the power to win this challenge. This is the one fight you can't afford to lose. Start today. I want to build a community right here for people on this journey. If you feel comfortable, share one piece of your story or a struggle you're facing in the comments below. Sharing can be a powerful first step, not just for you, but for someone else reading who needs to know they aren't the only one. And if you feel like this is too much to handle on your own, please consider reaching out to a therapist, a counselor, or a support group. You do not have to carry this alone. You deserve help, and you deserve to be free.